Greetings. Good morning. Sending you also warm, positive vibrations. So, shout out to all of those who are up early, my early risers who made it up for the 5 a.m. workout because it's Friday and Friday is our community class. So, hopefully, your day is off to a great start. I'm over here cracking some coconuts. And this morning, what I thought I wanted to just have a conversation, a respectful conversation about is a woman in the raw vegan community, more so than just a woman, um, an issue or perhaps a subject for reflection, right? Reflection and respectful dialogue. So there's a woman, and my sister was the first to inform me, someone that's in the raw vegan community. She recently transitioned. So she has left the building. She is no longer here with us. She has transitioned over to the other side. And my sister was asking me whether or not I'm aware of or if I know this person. So her face looked familiar. I am a professionally trained chef, though my specialty is in whole, fresh, living, unprocessed foods. And I'm just thinking, what a confirmation that many years ago I decided to go more so with the principles than just the label of the food, because it can be very easy for us to start ego tripping, because we're humans, right? We do that often. Ego tripping off of the labels, but the labels don't necessarily tell the full picture. You can kind of liken it to obsessing, quote unquote, obsessing on the scale or feeling very anxious about the numbers on the scale, or feeling desperate about being unhealthily overweight. Yet you keep looking at the numbers on the scale, and the scale doesn't tell you, let's say if I have 200 pounds, an average scale would not distinguish whether that's 200 pounds of mostly unhealthful adipose tissue being the technical term for fatty tissue, or 200 pounds of mostly athletic lean mass. So 200 pounds on a very fit athletic person is going to look and perform very differently than someone that has a lot of excess unhealthful adipose tissue and fatty tissue on the body. And by the way, you can research this on your own. Fatty tissue does have specific behaviors inside the body, right? The body's over 1 trillion cells, and our cells are living organisms, and they eat and they poop, right? So I know for me, as someone that comes from a family pattern of morbid obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, the comorbidities that are a result of lifestyle. And I can also make the distinction that a lot of the lifestyle is due to self-soothing and self-comforting with food. So I think I observed that getting caught up in the label, not only can it be misleading, and it's not necessarily effective. If, for example, I remember years ago as a vegan, if I look at my face was very puffy and inflamed. I ate a lot more. I ate lots of fruits and vegetables, but I also ate a good amount of processed food, especially when I was working for an airline and I would eat the vegan options on the plane. There was so much sodium. I couldn't totally see myself objectively, but when I would come home from trips, my godfather would ask me, like, what are you eating? And looking back on my pictures, my face was puffy. It looked almost like swollen, and I had quite a bit of acne. I really had intense adult acne, which was like, the bane of my existence. I couldn't stand it. And that was as a vegan. It even seemed at one point when I stopped eating flesh that my skin seemed like it started to break out more. Though when I look back, I can distinguish whether I was eating meat and I was eating junk food, eating a lot of junk food as a child, which was not healthy. All the cheese doos and the potato chips and the beef patties with cocoa bread and the Chinese food, it was not healthy. And when I was young as a teenager, I can kind of, quote unquote, get away with it for a while, right? Like many women in my family were slim and young and fine. And then eventually I was wondering if that's what was going to happen to me, if that would be my trajectory. Because I saw these women, the bodies eventually shifted, closer and closer to me. And eventually it was many of my cousins. Also, the depression Definitely, most of the women in my family didn't have a physical outlet for stress. They were lucky if they just had church, but they didn't have a physical movement practice. Maybe perhaps I had one cousin, shout out to her, that used to run track, and that was really inspirational to me. But other than dancing at a party or busting out some moves, because we can't dance in my family, there wasn't much of a physical outlet. This is not my favorite knife for stress. So I can observe and discern the patterns. I'm trying to find my favorite knife. Got all these knives, and none of these are my favorite knife. Open up my coconut. So I feel fortunate that I can be discerning and I can distinguish the patterns. So I don't have to get caught up in the labels. It's more about the results and understanding how you get the results that you have. How do you have more lean mass? How do you have more excessive, unhealthful adipose tissue around your midsection? What are going to be the results? What's the trajectory? How long does it take to get that stuff off? What is involved in that? Is having unhealthful adipose tissue, does it contribute to cancer? And yes, it does. It contributes to lots of diseases, but many of us can go to the opposite extreme in desperation and with so much information out here. What I found very disheartening in looking at the young lady, just doing some research, and looking at some of the pages on her page, like what I found disturbing, what I found really, really disturbing from grown adults with their different platforms, with different check marks next to their name, I guess if they're official on Instagram, was the tone of like a projection of like, I want to say like mean, hateful comments. I mean, it was kind of like, I found it kind of like nauseating. I find it nauseating, and I totally get it. I've been there. I've done so many different types of modalities with nutrition in 30-something years. The zone, vegan, raw vegan, vegetarian, done lots of fitness. So I can discern the principles that work. If I felt something was healthy for me, I remember being vegan for many, many years and deciding when I was doing fitness competitions because of the culture and my son's dad started feeding my son fish again, that I decided to go back to eating fish and chicken. Fish, and then for a while chicken, and then I was like, I don't really want to eat the chicken. I had a coach that asked would I try red meat. I tried it once, and perhaps it could give me a particular result aesthetically, though for me, and you'll have to decide what that is for you. So I'm here to say your hair, your nutrition, that's as a human, that is your journey, and it is your responsibility. That's your personal journey and your responsibility. No one else's, not Jesus, not Obama, not the president. It's your responsibility, right? And we are a doctrine of signature, right? We are a fingerprint. The scars, the wear and tear, the body gets wear and tear. And newsflash, even with raw vegan, even with eating fruits and vegetables, even if I was a carnivore or whatever, you're going to age. Even if you put prosthetics in the body, it's going to age. That's part of life. That's a cycle. Right? Senescence, you can see it. I put something up on it in a community section. We reach a peak and then the body starts to decline. We can slow that process down. And it's not only with food. How much of food, if you think about it, how many commercials do you see for strawberries and green beans and vegetables? Not many. Most of the commercials we see are marketing campaigns for products, not even so much whole foods. And the information is out there. The information is there now for deli meats, sausage meats, force meats. The information is there, right? Yet visuals and imagery, music and tones are very, very powerful in terms of giving suggestions to the subconscious and illustrating stories and also triggering fear, right? I've mentioned on this channel, the basic human fears are, let's see if we can get them all. Fear of loss of love or never finding love. Fear of death, fear of old age, fear of illness, fear of poverty. Oh, and fear of criticism. The 6 basic fears. So they're quite often, one woman's perspective, they are often, even with all the positive universal principles that are contained inside of religious texts and philosophical texts, it is quite obvious by now that all of these principles have been manipulated. So a lot of times you're trying to get to the truth or figure out some cleansing, healing, something that help you get make sense of what happened to you in childhood, but you got to dig through a lot of sometimes like digging through a trash can to move the other stuff over to get to the principle, right? And when we start attaching ourselves to different personalities, right? It doesn't even matter if it's me. You don't know me. This is a screen. I'm a whole person. It's strangers looking through little boxes. Little boxes. They're flat boxes that you can close, which is amazing. But we don't know everyone, and you can't see what people are going through mentally and emotionally, the things when people turn off the camera. You don't know what they've been doing consistently. You know, some people are selling different lifestyles that they've been doing for 2 weeks or 2 months. I can take consistency yields results. That's consistent. People don't usually get fat or unhealthily overweight off of fruits and vegetables, right? And what can be seen from this woman, Zhanna, is that she appeared to be unhealthily overweight. So the hatred of people, you know, let's say if they're carnivore or they tried veganism, now they're carnivore, or now they're keto. It's like whatever your religious affiliation of the moment is, whatever your whoever your politician is, your religious leader. We usually a lot of times change those over the years. We try on different diets. So how much sense does it make to be hateful towards one when you're likely going to try another? You know, or it just, I don't know. I just found it really where humans are at, and it's not all humans. It's just, and I can get it. You know, I'm not exempt. I strive and make an effort to be mindful, you know, of other people and projecting my stuff. You know, we're human. But the hatefulness is like, it can almost make you want to just shy away from dealing with human beings. But here we are as a human race. People are so hateful in terms of taking a staunch pitchfork in the ground. This woman died of being vegan, right? But being vegan is so many different ways to not eat animal products or not wear animal products. To me, which really speaks of just the immaturity, but not just the immaturity, this blurting stuff out to get a reaction for people to become very polarized. I don't know. I just found it was very disturbing. You know, are there any lessons that we personally can learn from this woman? She's not the only one. You know, do we get picket forks of people dying from alcoholism or from binging on potato chips? I used to eat so many bags of potato chips, it was crazy. Or just overeating a standard American diet. What about the rates of cancer? The American population, the world population right now is off the chain in terms of obesity. I just saw a documentary on China. It has an obesity issue now. China. And it's with the influx and the addiction of fast food chain restaurants. Now everybody, you know, can get a piece of, you know, that pie. So it's to me, the patterns and the principles I have found for me personally, that I can have more clarity and wade through all of the information and the different personalities when I steer towards the principles, not so much the personality, so that I can be discerning even if it's someone that I like, and I like the way their presentation and I like the way that they speak. It's not for me to fall in love and suspend all judgment in love. That's a whole loaded word. But to suspend a vetting process. And at any point, not say to myself, you don't know these people. You don't know how they're living when they turn off the camera. You don't know how long they've been living a particular lifestyle. If that works, that may work for them, may not work for me. Your life and your health is your responsibility, right? So if you put for example, not to make it bad or wrong, but if you put a whole lot of stuff in your body, following behind these celebrities, you will have to deal with it when they have the money and the trainers and the chefs to take that stuff out of the body, do all kinds of stuff with their body. Sometimes they may be getting cosmetic surgery for free. And you're following, you go to do a cheap version, you may jack yourself up. So I've seen all different, as someone that's worked in a holistic health center where there's lots of body work and colonics, and then worked as a personal trainer in a high-end gym, I have seen so much. I've seen every extreme. Your life, your health, your body fat, your body composition, your mental, emotional health is your responsibility. I've accepted that I'm on my own. Yeah. So to me, if I was to knock myself all out with raw vegan or whatever, that would be on me. Right. So again, rather than the label, I feel relaxed when I think of just real simple. Everybody's body can benefit from whole, fresh living, unprocessed food. You see, it's not necessarily the label. So I don't particularly like blood and cruelty and the stuff that's in the ocean. I don't know if there are any clean foods anymore. I do know that the food, it occurs to me sometimes, wow, it doesn't even occur to me to put spray on the foods that are coming out of my yard, the nopales or the aloe or the different greens. It doesn't occur to me something like, oh my gosh, that's organic greens in my yard, that there's enough for me to eat, that I can pull from twice a day for me and my sister. There's enough in my yard. That to me is mind blowing. I don't even think about it. So it's why, like, this simple lifestyle, it works for me. I'm all about the leverage where I don't have to think about it. I don't think anymore about my skin, or even if it was to break out, which was torturous, like to get to the root of that, what was causing, even when it would clear up, what would cause the cycle to start all over again. That was so torturous. There are specific foods, some of them are vegan, that as soon as I would eat them, I can feel the pimples starting all over again. So I invite you to consider, are you an observer of patterns in nature, of people? Do you suspend your judgment just because you like the person? Doesn't mean you hate somebody. You don't have to be for or against. Though, do you suspend looking at principles and common sense because you just like the person, or you like the religion, or you like your pastor? So then you don't use common sense. And then the red flags are going off, telling you that something's unsafe, but you just proceed anyway. You feel what I'm saying? I have found that even eating healthy is very principled, because just for me, deciding I'm not going to put certain things in toxic, I'm just not going to put it into my body. Don't you know they came up with a label for that? What was the label they came out with years ago? It was some kind of label for if you don't want to eat any junk food. And I was like, wow, well, maybe my folks, we could use that label. What is the word? One of these phobias or VOSAs or whatever. They came up with a term. So I'm like, there's this thing, with labeling everything, rather than focusing on the result and the behavior and what you're able to do. What somebody else is able to do or not do, what does that have to do with me, or with you? So your journey is your responsibility, right? This woman appeared to be unhealthily overweight. I don't know what she was dealing with mentally in terms of depression, but just the fact that people are zeroing in on that and not discussing her mental health. Perhaps mental health and eating disorders is the main thing for us to look at. And then what are eating disorders? Do we consider binging and purging, or binging on raw vegan food and vegan Philly cheese steak, and then I'm going to do a fast tomorrow and get a colonic? What do we call that? Does it need a label? So rather than going along with the crowd, can we get quiet, in our quiet moments, be reflective, right? Of what do we need to do for ourselves? In your quiet moments, you ask yourself, is there anything that I'm missing? Is there anything that I'm not addressing? What are my blind spots when it comes to, am I ignoring my health? Am I not putting regular investments into my physical health, into my muscle, into a healthy body composition? Is it that important? Even if you are ignorant and you're not aware, we will still have to live with the consequences, right? And health is cumulative. It's built up and cultivated over time, just like disease. So if we're not putting in significant deposits, then why would we expect the body? Okay, you might get lucky with genetics. Is that a chance you're really willing to take? Right? Is that smart? I know when I go around different populations, I'm sometimes just shocked by the total different degree of conversations that are had. In one vein, I hear conversations about top-notch, what's the best for human performance? How do we maximize our brain? How do we maximize our time? How do we maximize our money? How do we maximize our relationships? And at the other end of the spectrum, in another demographic, the conversations are about what happened to me, which is not necessary, to be dismissive of that. Or they're very polarized in terms of this group is right or wrong, whether it's male against female, race against race. It's a whole nother level of conversation. That's a pattern. If I go in certain circles, right? There's one circle around human performance, around improving, understanding how your brain and your body works, right? For example, when I would be around my homies that were also moms and fitness competitors, that conversation, the level of conversation around the foods that were in our food bags, right? I could have been just training clients and I'm walking out the door, right? Ready to go chill for a little bit before I go in the afternoon to go train some other clients. And I can see one of my colleagues, one of my favorite homies, and she's like, Wanda, come on in here, do some cardio. I wound up going back in the door, and we would spend time. We would just be sometimes on the machine doing cardio, but just chit chatting. What's in your food bag? Latest fitness gear, and it would just be fun. It wasn't so much about fitness, but we just had good habits. Sharing the different positive things we were doing. I had several friends that are moms, and we were all doing fitness competitions. When I look back, all of us were using fitness as a form of self-therapy, as a form of self-release, as a way to make ourselves feel empowered in a very real way. We're using fitness as a tool. That's a pattern. There's also, if I go around different demographics, which is why I can't all the time have just clients as homies. I need people, or I choose to have in my circle of influence, people that are more accomplished than me in certain areas in fitness. Well, I know they're going to push me to a whole nother level, like I may push a client, like I would likely push a client, right, safely. But people that are more fit than me, people that know more about me with economics. I may know more about food preparation. So when with people, we're having an energy exchange, and I'm excited. Usually I like the person's character, or it could be style. There's an energy exchange. There's an information exchange. If you stay talking to the same people and the conversation is familiar, perhaps nothing new is coming in, no new information. So how are you growing? But it's familiar. So maybe, no diss to the homies around the way. Love the homies around the way. But I recognized when I needed more information around health. I wanted to travel. When I was a little girl, for some reason, I saw a picture in the book. I wanted to see, are there really, icebergs? I want to see Alaska with my own eyes. And I remember having friends say, what do you want to go see that for? I was like, I just want to see if it's real. And I remember years later finding myself in Norway. I didn't have my family members with me. I was in Norway by myself. It was freezing cold. I had my little trench coat on. My hands were freezing, but it was so beautiful. I didn't have a whole lot of money in my pocket, but I was there in Norway. Another time I'm standing in front of the Sphinx in Egypt. I got to see it with my own eyes. So those weren't necessarily conversations of the people around me. It didn't make them bad. It didn't make them wrong. But I saw something else I wanted. So I had to have different conversations with different people. Do you realize that affects the way that you eat? The way that we do one thing can often be a clue to how we're doing other things. So perhaps as one of my mentors used to say to me, she said, if you're eating lots of sweets all the time and you're addicted to sweets, then perhaps you don't have any sweetness in your life. And I remember many years ago, I didn't totally get what metaphysics was. I was like, this seems so complicated. I don't have time for this. I get it now. It's quite simple. But she said to me, then you must not have a lot of sweetness in your life, something to reflect on. Or if I remember when I could just keep eating and eating brown rice, which was totally healthy. And it was so comforting. It was like, I put spices in it. Sticky glutinous brown rice. It was very healthy. Had a lot of fiber. But I was like, dang, I feel like I can eat a pot and I can make another pot. I can keep eating this. What is that? Why am I not feeling satiated like the books say that I should feel? Even when I had poultry and when I had fish with it, I could keep eating and eating and eating. I could recognize I'm not hungry. Fast forward. Maybe I want to join me in coaching on Sundays. Because sometimes you're asking for being very demanding. Give me the recipe. Give me the recipe. Is there a shortage of recipes out there? Let's be honest. Is there a shortage? I have recipes, by the way. There's a whole raw vegan cakes workshop. You don't even need a dehydrator on the BODYCULINARY.com. But is there really a shortage of recipes? Is there a shortage of labels? Is there? Don't you have a question? I'm big on what's missing. Is there something perhaps I'm not aware of? And I know the principle of let me get myself in some different circles, right? One time I decided I wanted to be in a circle of millionaires. I said, they got to be having a different conversation than my family's having. Not that that conversation is wrong. I want a different level of results. So let's see what happens. What do I have to do to get in those circles? You see what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? It's principles. If you are having the same conversation with the same people and you're laughing, you're joking, it's like, it's funny. Sometimes you desensitize yourself to the urgency to change. For example, if we're always laughing and joking in comedy, right? In my culture, maybe it ain't you. But in a lot of our culture, we laugh about our pain, about being unhealthily overweight. We definitely laugh quite a lot. There's a lot of laughter and comedy around our communication skills and beating children. I'm not gonna make it right or wrong, but I'm just saying we laugh at a lot of the dysfunction. Sometimes when we're laughing at it, then it's desensitized. It's made light of. So there's no urgency to change. With some of the things we're entertained by, we're so entertained, we don't really understand, from one woman's perspective, how these things are affecting you subconsciously. It's only so much that can fit on this, like on your desktop, right in the front at one time. But inside your subconscious, inside your central processing unit, your mind and your body keep score. Your subconscious is picking up on everything in your peripheral, and it gets stored in there. Also gets stored the emotions inside of your body. If you want a different result, doesn't it make sense? It must be something. I know this is me from a child. Must be something I don't understand here. We're doing the same thing and we have a different result. What is it that I'm missing? I know me, I've been willing to pay for access to certain conversations because I don't think that somebody's necessarily better than me. I think they might perhaps have a different understanding. I'm curious. Even when I was a little girl and I was watching Roots, I was like, if they're reading the same book, how come somebody's the master and a slave? Why is one group the master and others the slave? They must not be reading that book the same. They must have a different understanding of that book. I figured that out as a child. So that's a principle. That's one of my principles. That's one of my principles. So anyway, back to the young lady. It appears she was underweight. The hateful comments are astounding, and I can admit I see a lot of that in my community, right? In the chocolate community. This morning, when I was looking at this post on the young lady that passed the transition on her page, I was feeling so horrified as I was watching some of our vanilla counterparts. The hatred, the same hatred, like, oh my God, people were so hateful. It was just so, I thought it was really disgusting. And I was like, wow, where has that ever been me? Is that us as a group, as a people, as a species? It was just disheartening. It was disturbing. And it was horrifying. The gang mentality. If whatever you're choosing works for you, whether you're at the ashram, the church, or whatever, all I can do is respect your choice. You gotta think about that. What is that would make me upset with your choice for how you're living your life? I don't care. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what you eat, especially if I'm not raising you as a child. I'm not here to tell grown folks what to do that are not paying me. And even then, there's a respect. But what is that? What's the projection about the tendency that we have, our frustrations, to project our religion on other people? I was working with some people recently, and some folks were going hard. No offense to whatever people's faith is, but they were really going hard sharing their Jehovah Witness faith. Again, that's your thing. But they were pushing so hard. I found it disrespectful to come into my space or somebody else's space and put whatever your church stuff, raised Pentecostal, or whatever your Jehovah Witness. It was really, it feels very cult-like. This is the age of like cult following. We follow a person. We follow. And principle that I have found, a lot of times I think, and I've been there, I've had my butt-kicking experiences, that, well, why do we follow so much? Well, even if you take something that you found helpful here, it's your responsibility. Whatever you try for something is your responsibility. Now, that may be sobering, but it can actually be more freeing to take responsibility for your life. Maybe that can make you more careful and more discerning when you realize it's on me. If I expose my reproductive organs to somebody I have not vetted, the results and the responsibility is on me, period. Whatever I knew, didn't know, the responsibility is mine. I could say blaming my mother or other people. The responsibility and the results are on me. So just understanding that principle, my life is my own responsibility, is a very leveraged way of thinking that can help me slow down and vet more. When I understand the cost, when I understand the risk, right? If I had to take my mind now and put it into my mind in my 20s, I'm very clear. And I don't have to hate someone else. I'm just very clear. Let's say, for example, if I'm dating or I decide I want to, get down for the crown. I want to be intimate with my body parts. I realize I'm very clear that I will assume so much risk and it's not worth the risk. So without hating or labeling somebody, I'm much more discerning about what I'm willing to risk. And I feel very secure that I don't have to follow my girlfriend's advice, my friend's advice, because I'm very clear. But a lot of that wisdom came from life experience, which we are affected by marketing and social media. And some of us just didn't have the parents. But whether you have them or did, your life is your responsibility, and you will have to live. All of us have to live with the choices we make, good or bad. You brought children, and they're your responsibility. And I think it's amazing. It's a pander culture. It's a pander. It's like two sides to it. The ones that are allowing ourselves, whether it's partially in knowledge, in full knowledge, and partially not. But this is a culture of pandering where, like, and this is something, again, I realize on principle as a pattern. I am very aware of politicians, preachers, pimp-like personalities in male and female form that will tell me what I want to hear and get me hyped up. And I can know if there's a conflict of interest and that they have their own agenda. So because we want to put the responsibility, right, and maybe shortcut doing the self-experimentation, that has a cost. It costs us a lack of clarity. It costs us having a belief in contrast to having a full knowing and confidence. They are not the same. They are not the same. Information is not the same as wisdom of life experience. And it's unfortunate. You know, for example, a lot of people in their 20s, a lot of young people will not make it out of their 20s without a life-altering STD or some kind of damage. It's an STD. It's a lot. And there's new ones coming down the pipeline. So I wondered, why doesn't it occur to people, like, the amount of risk you assume, male and female, why are you not present to the risk? Is it worth it? So can we really honestly say that we're not influenced? So I don't know about you. As I've told my son, I am smart enough to know that I don't know everything. I am smart enough to recognize the principles of animal husbandry, right? That's the science of breeding animals for behavior, for beasts of burden. A lot of those principles are applied to social engineering into humans, right? You can actually trigger people to go buy and spend things. Again, to be honest with yourself and to make yourself vulnerable to yourself, oh my gosh, is such a leverage activity, right? That can go a long way in you not allowing yourself to be bamboozled and to put yourself in harm's way because you don't have the discernment yet and your eyes have not been trained yet, right? Again, we may have you sometimes on the side, but information is not wisdom. So anybody coming along some new information that sounds good, you want to get manipulated, right? People in your panties, your pocketbook, and in your psyche. And you don't even know what hit you, unfortunately. It's not until we've done loads of damage to ourselves that we acquire the wisdom. That's a hard way to learn, right? You don't have to go through everything to learn. So principle for my flowers out there, the flowers and my herbs out there, my young folks or folks, maybe even of my same demographic, because consequences don't discriminate. Consequences. So I can observe the pattern. If somebody has lackluster results, or if they are very lethargic and they have a lot of vices, if they're sharing their vices with me, in contrast to, like, yo, let's get down on this 5 o'clock workout together. I remember I had a friend, good friend. I remember we would travel, we were working for an airline together, and I remember we were like stacking our cash, almost like not a competition, but we just had like a challenge. We didn't call it that. It was like a challenge back in the day to see how much money we could save and how well we could live on how little money we were spending. We broke out our good china. We took a lot of our coins to Pathmark to get money, and we were stacking the rest of our money. We had goals then. I will never forget. That was such a wonderful experience that I had with a friend, and she was so far ahead of her years. I will never forget her. Just planning and goal setting and fitness and talking about raw foods back in the days and skin and personal development, but that challenge to see how well we could live on how little and stack our cash. That was such a wonderful experience. So who's in your circle of influence? Are you inspiring each other? Not just talk. This is the age of so much talk. Are you getting into action? Do you spend any time making any of your own healthy food? Right? Is everything just a product? Is everything like, I don't have time for that? Because if you don't pay up front, you're going to pay on the end. You're going to pay on the back end. Sometimes, somebody's sharing advice. And again, I'm not knocking nobody. I got Rosses in my family. I know some people dear to me that smoke. It's not just about the smoking, just like it's not just about raw vegan. But if somebody is drunk and high all the time and they're sharing that with you, to me, I'd be looking at like, this person is not really my friend. Right? They're sharing things with me because, it's not just misery, but a lot of times we like company in what we're doing. Right? So does somebody want company in getting better and greatness? Doesn't mean that your life isn't worth nothing, but that's not what I'm going for. So if somebody wants to share their drugs or alcoholism with me, or their habits that are not beneficial to their life, I got to look at them sideways. Right? So I don't have to hate them. Right? Doesn't mean I can't have affection, though I can discern the difference between affection. It can even be family members where I have affection, but these are not results that I want. I don't want to be surrounded by this because we're easily conditioned. I don't want those habits. We pick up on each other's habits. We pick up on each other's language, eating habits. I'm just saying. Right? So discernment and common sense. When we're emotionally triggered, a lot of times we'll throw common sense right out the window. We won't activate. It's a lot of stuff that is so plain. And that's why I love my grandma Lou. Right? Because she had a lot of common sense. And we ignore red flags with our own behavior, not just other people. We're ignoring red flags. You may be ignoring, aches and pains in your body. You may be ignoring if you need to go to the doctor, because there's a place for allopathic medicine. You may be ignoring the fact that the hairstyles you're doing are pulling your hair out. Or the fact that you never sleep, or the fact that you feel horrible from arguing and fussing and fighting with someone constantly. Maybe you're trying to control them to change your diet or do something they don't want to do. All of this stuff affects your body and your health. How can you expect to have the energy and clarity to focus if you keep consuming different things and different behaviors? So how interesting is it people go to somebody's channel and say they died because of this or they died because of that? We don't know. And blurting that statement out does what? It makes you feel better about yourself. Okay, you can assess from looking at it. Some things you can assess, but there's a lot that you can't see from the screen. And whether you can see my life or somebody else's life, your health, your vitality, your prostate, your fallopian tubes, your skin, your liver is your responsibility. Your quality, you can go to 20 million channels, you go to 20 million people, or several people, or 20, 30 people. And guess what? Everybody's going to give you a different piece of advice. Are you able to seek your own counsel? Do you feel confident in yourself to take wise counsel? I think many of us can't, because we never sit quiet. We have a disdain for bitter herbs, right? Most people don't have cravings for plain celery, right? Most of us don't have a craving for bitters. Yet those are the very foods that are the most healing. I consider bitters a whole food group, but that's just me. Right? We don't have a craving. We never want to get uncomfortable to our detriment. If you want sweets all the time, it's no secret that a lot of folks that have been traumatized, just my observation, it's a setup where you give us alcohol and drugs and junk food, because it could become a coping mechanism. And maybe perhaps some people over in France, maybe they don't have the fixation on food. Maybe they have more access to parks, or they don't have the same level of anxiety. So if you've been exposed to or experienced PTSD, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder, right, then it's going to be your responsibility, the information is there, to do the research to see what kind of things I can implement on my own into my lifestyle that I can do consistently to administer therapy to myself, to make myself feel better in ways that don't weaken me. Are the solutions that are being offered weakening you and keeping you on the host roll? I'm just saying, are you trading one addiction for another? Whether it's a person, a toxic relating, are you trading one religion for another, but still not dealing with the root of your behavior? Are you spending all your time at church, but you don't spend no time in the garden, no time for fitness, no time to learn some communication skills? I'm just saying, I ain't telling grown folks what to do. Greetings, Jaleesa. Greetings, Taffy Wallace. So this is not my correct. I'm going to go to my sisters and get the correct knife. So I'm not here because this is not efficient with me. This coconut should be already cracked so I can make my coconut milk. I wanted to make some beautiful, healthy food for myself. That's the beauty of getting up early. I don't know what time it is where you are, but I feel so energized because the workout is done. It's pouring rain, which sounds really beautiful. I'm here. I invite you to consider your circle of influence that you create for yourself, right? Do you feel motivated to get into action about the things that you say are important, your core values? Do you have a core value of health, right? And by the way, I am not the hair police. I'm not the food police. Again, I don't care on the level of what you eat. I care how you treat me. I care how you treat me. That trumps everything. You keep going, wah, 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 wah. I'm looking at your behavior, how you treat animals, people, the planet, and how you treat me, right? I don't think that somebody doesn't have value because of their weight. That's silly. That's ridiculous. One of my dearest friends, I used to have a Jerry curl a gold tooth. If she gets a perm order, does she not have value? That's silly. That's silly. That says projection, that I'll be projecting on somebody else. Like, why would I be so bothered by how they wear their hair? Now, if it's a children around me and dangerous caustic chemicals are they're being exposed to, and if they're not my children, I'm not in control of that. So I care how you treat me with I'm not one to compliments are nice, but you can't pay me only in compliments. That's nice, but treatment trumps everything. Treatment, investment, reciprocation, right? Do you allow somebody, flowers? Do you allow people to just give you compliments? And, you need the validation, or then they ask me how I know. Need the validation so bad that you ignore behavior, how you're being treated. If that's what you're allowing, that is your responsibility. That's our individual responsibility. So the way we're thinking, I found the way that we eat is a mindset. What we choose, the decisions we make for how we spend our time, our money, what we're investing in. I've been investing in myself for years in classes, courses, communication, speed reading. It's just been a habit because it's a leverage activity. So are you inspired to get into action around your core values? What are your core values? Is it health? Is it financial stability? Do you feel like it's too hard for you and then you give up? And then we can all be prone to escaping on social media. Hopefully, you're leveraging social media because it is a wonderful tool, right? I'm in another part of the world chit-chatting with some folks, on the screen. Are you curating it so that it doesn't weaken you, right? That your life is enhanced. I got some people in China and different parts of the world, they don't even know they're my besties. When it comes to growing food, I'm unapologetic about creating positive support for myself. So great conversation. Let me go get this other thing and get this coconut out of the shell. Feel free to join me in the mornings. The 5 a.m. workout is 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes I'll post the warm-up, which is a workout in and of itself. If you're interested in the full workout and doing training with me on a regular, reach out to me at info@body-culinary.com. Take advantage of coaching on Sundays at 2 p.m. Reach out to me for group coaching. If you're interested in the Flower Fit community, and for folks, if you're there in Flower Fit community, there's a lot of folks in there. So many folks. I need to see an avatar or a way to identify you. I just have this thing with interact. I need to see, and that's why I like this other platform. And YouTube, I can't see who's who. It's all kind of entities and energies that are looking for different kinds of things. So I really appreciate respectful boundaries. That feels better to me. That feels healthy. The idea of giving access to so many strangers, and you're in my house, in my kitchen, I need boundaries in order for me to feel healthy, especially when we're having conversations, sometimes intimate, vulnerable conversations. So please identify yourself if you are in the Flower Fit community, because I'll be going to do a purge as I tweak systematizing it more so I can interact with people more in the coaching. So Flower Fit community is about sharing starting a garden or your progress in your garden, right? Because I'm about fruits and vegetables. If you talk about the garden, fruits and vegetables, the fitness, you got my attention. Anything else, I can't help you. So sharing your results from your heart rate monitor. So not just talking, but what are your results? Tweaking your results, being inspired. If I'm looking at somebody else, I'm looking to see the possibilities of what I could do, right? So your garden, which is a form of therapy, and your peaceful consumption, whatever labels you want to call yourself, everyone can benefit from more fresh, whole, fresh, living fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. Finding ways to prepare them creatively and ways that your body can digest them. If that's at your foundation, you can take that any which way you want, right? But if our skin and our body's inflamed, it's telling a story. If we have unhealthful adipose tissue, that's going to cost us. That's directly related and is a precursor to diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Heart disease, diabetes. I'm talking too long. I got to get off here. But it's the comorbidities, right? And you can be slim and be unhealthy, or of a slimmer body type. But we're striving for health. So why would I waste my time going back and forth with each other? Get what you came to get. Get some results. Get inspired. Get into action. I like to come together around specific activities. I'm a coach, but I like to be inspired too. So it's not enough money for me to just listen to a bunch of complaining. If you're ready to get into action, that's my focus. What are we doing? How are we getting into action? If you get into action and you do it imperfectly, then you have something you can tweak. You have something that a coach can give you feedback on. Why keep doing the same thing and getting lackluster results? Does that make one iota sense? No, it does not. And that's not very inspiring. So I like to be inspired. I like to have a lot of fun. Don't need perfection, but I like to get into action around what I say are my core values. That's what I can do, right? That's more empowering. That feels better. That restores my integrity. So should I transition at some point, which I will take off my human suit, and I'm en route to doing and being engaged and self-actualizing by my core values, then I'm okay. Whatever, bring the next experience on. I don't know. I don't know what's in the other life, but I'm alive here in this physical plane. So yes, this body is important. I can't tell you nothing about no afterlife. No, I'm responsible for this life right here. Anything that's enticing me to not be responsible, I have to look at it like that. I'm very wary of anything that will entice me not to be responsible for my life here and now. I'm not waiting for the afterlife because I might turn out to have the same thing more intense than I got right now. Create a great day on purpose. Check out Whole Living Foods in the Hood with menus to fit your budget. You can download that on body-culinary.com. Create a great day on purpose. And I'll see you like my hairstyle of the day. See you soon.